It's the second year under Formula One's new aerodynamic regulations to start 2023, so apart from a number of minor changes, including of course the floor to help with porpoising, the rulebook has largely remained the same, so teams can build on the work of last year. During the test days in Bahrain last week, Aston Martin seemed to be closer to the times of the top teams, so the team from Silverstone is tipped for a pretty good result this week. But here's everything else we're expecting to see. Red Bull will start this weekend as the reigning Constructors' champion. The RB19 had few problems during the test days last week, apart from an oil leak, and looked very strong indeed, especially Sergio Perez's qualifying run on day 3, looking lightning fast. The team has opted for an evolution of the RB18, whereby the chassis has become a lot lighter this year and therefore more performance has been found. All arrows seem to therefore be pointing to the RB19 to rule the roost this year. The hierarchy of Red Bull were also very satisfied with how the testing went in Bahrain, although not every team has shown their hand just yet. Ferrari and Mercedes were moderately satisfied with their testing in Bahrain. Both teams had enough of a lead and an advantage over last year's car to show that they're looking faster, and Ferrari knows how to be quick on the straights this year, it seems. But still, they have a problem with tyre wear. It seems to be a problem they've carried over from last season, as the Ferrari would run out of rubber far quicker than a lot of their competition. Mercedes is still struggling to get the most out of the W14, their new car for this year. Toto Wolff has already tempered expectations by saying that the Red Bull train has already left the station. The team has continued to innovate on the design of last year with the W13, like it or hate it. For this weekend, the team is still taking a new rear wing, which we didn't actually see during the test days. The W14 has a good race pace and relatively low tyre degradation, but whether the team will be the third fastest on the grid this season, well, we'll get to see that, or at least a first impression of it this weekend. There is plenty of optimism around Aston Martin for 2023. With the signing of Fernando Alonso, the team seems to have taken a clear step forward. The AMR23 was close to the RB19 during the test days, especially during race simulations, and in terms of top speed it was also good during those test days. Lance Stroll confirmed that despite his previous cycling accident, he will still participate in the Grand Prix weekend this weekend. However, the Canadian has had to skip the test days, so it may come down to Alonso to get a good result for the team. The expectation, perhaps in qualifying, is that the team might not be very impressive, but they look very good when it comes to long race pace, and if they finish 4th or maybe even 3rd in the Constructors this year, well, that would be an almighty step forward for the team. Slowly but surely, it seems that Lando Norris is starting to get annoyed with the situation at McLaren. The team was tipped at the end of 2021 as one of the teams that might benefit from the new regulations and take a giant leap forward. But in the end, the Constructors had to give in the battle for 4th place in the final standings. That position was eventually sealed by Alpine ahead of them. Norris was not happy with the MCL60 after the test days, and debutant Oscar Piastri caused a short-lived yellow flag situation for not being able to keep his car on track. The car was not very strong with a small amount of fuel in it, and not many laps were driven. Norris may have lashed out on the walls more than anything else in frustration during testing, and it seems that the British driver knows that this year could be a very difficult season. There is a special weekend on the cards for Nick de Vries. The Dutchman has had to work hard for it, but finally he is a full-time driver in Formula 1 at AlphaTauri this season. Together with Yuki Tsunoda, the team has to find its way up from finishing 9th in the final standings last year, way down for them. In the first months at AlphaTauri, de Vries immediately made himself known by going to the engineers with a considerable to-do list. The team has shown similar pace to Haas in terms of their race pace during the test days, but it is still difficult to say where they will really sit in the rankings. Williams also have a new American driver in their ranks in Logan Sargent on the grid this weekend, while Oscar Piastri, of course, makes his F1 race debut with McLaren. It will be interesting to see who out of these possible struggling teams will impress on the first weekend of the season and who will look a little too green for their own good in Formula 1. Now remember, you can follow all the action throughout this weekend here on the YouTube channel on GPFans.com and GPFans Global on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok as well.